FIFA World Cup opening ceremony in Moscow. It was headlined by UK pop star Robbie Williams and backed up by a host of other musicians and artists, as well as around 500 dancers, gymnasts and trampolinists. They all paid homage to everything Russian while welcoming the world to the 21st edition of the FIFA World Cup.
Before kick-off, starting with this one, Let Me Entertain You from his 1998 debut solo album. And a song
the World Cup would not be complete without a glamorous opening ceremony to kick things off. It had a slightly different look and feel this time around. It was a lot shorter compared to the previous editions of the tournament, starting just 30 minutes before the opening match and lasting just 15 minutes. There was a strong focus on music led by former Take That band member Robbie Williams, who started proceedings with his 1997 hit Let Me Entertain You. He was accompanied into the Luzhniki Stadium by hundreds of performers. They were dressed in bright costumes. Two-time World Cup winner with Brazil, Ronaldo, was also present. The message, however, just like in previous years, remained the same. It was both a celebration of the beautiful game and also of the host country. Celebrated Russian soprano Aida Garufulina joined Williams in a duet. They performed his track Angels, also from his 1997 album Life Through a Lens. The World Cup was then declared officially open by Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I wish all the teams success and an unforgettable experience to fans. Welcome to Russia.
FIFA boss Gianni Infantino had the final word.
As of today, for 1 month, football will conquer Russia. And from Russia, football will conquer the entire world. Enjoy the biggest celebration on earth. Thank you, President Putin. Thank you, Moscow. Spasiba, Russia.
The Luzhniki Stadium will also host the closing ceremony and the all-important final. Lebantube, SABC News.
Well, Russia soundly beat Saudi Arabia by 5-0 in the opening match of the 2018 FIFA World Cup. The Russians scored their first 2 goals of the match in the first half through Yuri Gazinsky and Denis Shershev. The third was added in the second half by substitute Artem Dzyuba before Denis Shershev completed his brace with another strike. The final nail in the coffin came through a wonderful free kick by Alexandra Golovin. Here are some of the highlights from the match.
In towards that near post, good defensive header. That time from Salman. Back in again, free header! And Russia score the opening goal of the World Cup. It's Gazinsky who rises highest. And a better start the host nation couldn't have wished for. It's a real hunger about the Russians at the moment. That's a lovely turn. Trying to find a bit of space. The flag stays down this time. Real scramble in front of goal. It's clawed out by Abdullah. Not sure Chershev has quite earned a similar nickname. Here's Golovin. All on his own at the moment. Now he's got support. Here is Chershev again. The pass was a little short. Chershev! Brilliant finish! 8 goals in his last 12 competitive appearances. Here's Golovin. Great ball across! And wouldn't you just know it? The man who's just come off the bench keeps up that record. And surely now Russia can celebrate 3 points in the opening match of the World Cup. The goal from Artem Dzyuba was a bit of a bonus, really, coming on as a sub. There's another great try. Oh, what a goal that is! Stunning strike from Chershev. In comes a free kick. Golovin! They have got a fifth, direct from the free kick. Alexander Golovin, and beyond the Russians' wildest dreams.
Right, well, for more on the start of the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia, I'm joined by our sports reporter, Lebogang Dube. Lebo, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Simon.
Right, so the World Cup is underway, but first we had to sit through the opening ceremony. Now, what was Russian about this opening ceremony? Because I couldn't see anything apart from Vladimir Putin.
Well, Simon, I think it was a matter of getting straight to the point, to the opening match.
I like that about it.
We know that in previous years, it took over an hour, the opening ceremony.
Long-winded.
And this time, it was 15 minutes, and there was a theme, a musical act.
Yeah.
It was the Robbie Williams concert, and it was straight to the point.
Yep.
I think people were anticipating the opening match, but I think it went well. I think it was structured quite okay, and I think the fans enjoyed it as well. I think millions of fans across the globe enjoyed that musical performance by Robbie Williams, and then I think it kind of opened. People were rushing and anticipating the match, and I think we eventually got there on time, and I think everything just went well in terms of the opening ceremony.
So it was an efficient start, let's say. Just 15 minutes for the opening ceremony. Are we going to expect that from most of this World Cup? I assume Russia's going to be able to put on a very well-organized tournament for everyone. Have we heard anything to the contrary that might contradict that? I don't think we've heard anything. They've had 8 years of planning. I think the planning went well. They spent billions of dollars into this tournament, making sure that the infrastructure is up to scratch. I think the preparations, I think they were precise in organizing the World Cup. I think hence there was not much controversy regarding the hosting of the World Cup, and everything thus far has gone smoothly. And it's up to the teams now to step up and give a performance, like we saw in the opening match, the host team putting up a performance against Saudi Arabia. Absolutely. Russia 5-0 over Saudi Arabia. Does this mean that Russia's a team that we have to look to, or is it because maybe Saudi Arabia are not up to much? I don't think we should read too much into that result. Saudi Arabia and Russia are both teams that were the lowest ranked teams coming into the tournament. Yeah. And Russia, I think, they gave a performance, and unfortunately for Saudi Arabia, they didn't. I think perhaps they were overwhelmed by the atmosphere of the World Cup. If you look at the previous games that Saudi Arabia played coming into the World Cup, I mean, they didn't have bad results. They had a couple of wins, they had some draws in terms of in terms of the warm-ups, in terms of the qualification. But when you look at Russia, I think the last 6 matches or the last 5 matches, they lost all of those matches. So they came into this match, and I think they wanted to prove a point. Yeah. But again, they played against stronger position coming into this tournament. In comparison to Saudi Arabia, who played teams within their confederation. So I think that prepared Russia well for this tournament, and I think it wasn't a surprise that they won the match. But I didn't expect them to win by 5 goals to 0. So it was a good start for them. Heading into the next match. Yeah, so we had the hosts kicking off the tournament again. How does that work out for you? Is this something that's working? It used to be the defending champions kicking off proceedings, and there were a couple of shocks always on the cards. Senegal beating France, Cameroon beating Argentina. What's it like with the hosts? Because this wasn't a hugely exciting match from a neutral perspective. It was 2 teams that maybe none of us really were noticing. Yeah, I think the host country opening the match as the host. I think it works well. Let's build on that excitement. It wasn't an exciting match, but let's kick off, get over and done with. The first match, let's get into that mood of the World Cup. Unlike when you have set the tone, unlike having defending champions and then from the disappointing. You remember in Korea and Japan in 2002, France were the defending champions. They played against Senegal in the opening match. Senegal beat them, and that was it. It was the end of France. So I think this works well for the sponsors as well. And I think as well for the fans. To anticipate and get excited and get interested in terms of the upcoming matches. Absolutely. Right, well, I mean, Russia, they've got their work cut out for them now. Obviously a good score to start with, but it's they're going to have to face Uruguay and also Egypt in their group. can they go further? Because it's only up until now South Africa that has been the only host that's failed to progress from their group stages. Is Russia going to join us, or can they top Uruguay and Egypt?
I think the three other teams in Group A, I think they're going to have it difficult to qualify or make it through into the next round. The next match, Egypt and Uruguay, it's a must-win for both countries. So that they, at least set themselves for qualification into the last 16. With the 5-0 win, obviously the confidence is high, and they'll go into the next match. Even if they get 2 draws in the next 2 matches, they put themselves in a good position to qualify for the next round. For Saudi Arabia, I don't think they will make it through.
Yes.
They will need a miracle to win the next 2 matches. But at this point, as it stands, I see Uruguay and Russia going through into the last 16.
And not Egypt. I mean, Egypt, they're a tough team, and these are tough conditions. I mean, Russia's not easy to play in, not easy to travel in. Egypt, they don't get a show.
They've assembled a good squad, but history will tell you that African teams have not done well at the World Cup. So at this point, unless if they produce a win against Uruguay, then perhaps you can say that they'll make it through to the next round. But if we had to go by history, I don't think Egypt stands a good chance. And we know that the last time they won in the World Cup was in 1990. I think they don't have the experience in terms of the technical team, to be able to assist them out of the group stages. But let's wait and see. They've assembled a good team. Honestly, they've assembled a good team, and perhaps they can, cause an upset against Uruguay.
Is Salah ready, or are they going to use him too early? What's the deal with him?
I personally think that maybe they shouldn't use him in the first match. Allow him to rest a bit and maybe use him in the remaining 2 matches, and that will be against Russia and Saudi Arabia. So in this match, but it could work to their disadvantage, obviously. I mean, if they were to go on and lose, and perhaps lose because they were not scoring their chances. So I think for now, let him rest, because if he plays and gets injured, then that's it for his tournament.
Right. So that's a big match to look forward to tomorrow. That's Egypt versus Uruguay. Talking of the African bid, we've got a couple of decent teams that have come through. Nigeria being one. And Morocco's also playing tomorrow. We have Tunisia and Senegal as well. So who do we think is going to be doing well?
I would put my money on Senegal and Nigeria. I'll start with Nigeria. Nigeria, since their first qualification in 1994, they've made it through to the last 16. They've been consistent. Yes, they've not qualified through to the quarterfinals, but we know that Nigeria has the potential of making it through to the next stage. You look at Senegal; they've assembled a brilliant team, a good team, players of caliber, players who play in Europe. They've got the experience of playing in the highest league, big tournaments as well. So I expect them as well to do well in the group stages, and obviously they would want to emulate the team of 2002 that reached the quarterfinals, and by then it became Cameroon and Senegal that had reached the quarterfinals, the 2 African teams that had reached the quarterfinals of a World Cup. So I think they would want to emulate that, and their coach was in that team in 2002. So I would put my money on those 2 teams to go through into the next round.
Nigeria, Croatia. What do you reckon there? That's Nigeria's first match.
Well, looking at how Nigeria has been playing, and looking at the teams the countries that they've played ahead of the World Cup, I don't expect them to lose. I expect them, at least, if they don't put in a good performance, I expect them to draw. But Croatia is a very good team. A very strong team. In the previous World Cups, they've done extremely well, and so obviously this time as well, expected that they'll do well. They've got good players in the team. So it's going to be a tough one for Nigeria, but as well I think it will be tough for Croatia.
Right. So that's from Africa's side. But now for the favourites for the tournament, who are we looking at? Spain obviously were one of the favourites, but I think a lot of people might be reconsidering after the 0-hour firing of their coach.
It's tough to say, who are the outright favourites in this tournament. But I think a lot of European teams will do well in this tournament. Obviously, you cannot rule out the South Americans, Argentina, Brazil and Colombia as well. France, team that is also amongst the favorites. Belgium have got, the list of players that they have in that team should take them through to at least the quarterfinals. Spain, yes, might be dampened by what has happened in the past 2 days, where their coach was then fired and subsequently a new coach appointed. But I think with the players, with the experience that they have, I think they shouldn't struggle through the group stages. Germany as well, they've done well. The Euro, the previous Euro and the previous World Cup. So it's very tough to say who will be the outright favorite.
And what about Portugal? Portugal got one of the best players in the world, and they're playing Spain tomorrow, so I suppose that'll solve one of the dilemmas.
Yeah, it will solve one of the dilemmas, but I wouldn't want to put my money on Portugal. We know that they're the current, the European champions. But again, if you look at how they went on to win that tournament, it wasn't flattering. So I think between them and Spain, I would go for Spain.
Right, well, so you think Spain's going to take it tomorrow. We'll leave it at that. We're not going to push you too much. We'll have you back on as the tournament heats up. But Lebo, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure, Simon.